Tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
They are not adequately trained to deal with the level of violence that they're experiencing in the workplace.
CBC News obtains data suggesting a new type of hospital security guard is getting hurt at a startling rate. Plus,
we are not feeling safe right now because it's very close to my work.
for the second time in a month, someone opens fire on a Surrey cafe owned by a famed Indian comedian. And
we are being asked by the province to consider a name change.
it's a tiny community in the South Okanagan, but BC's newest municipality has a lot to think about.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Hello, I'm Dan Burritt. Thanks for joining us. Nearly 2 years have passed since the provincial government created a new class of hospital security guard. That was done in response to high-profile assaults against nurses and other healthcare staff. But new data obtained by CBC News suggests the relational security officers are themselves being injured at an alarming rate. Katie DeRosa has the story.
Keeping people safe in BC hospitals can be a dangerous job. Security guards are getting hurt, and new data obtained by CBC News shows just how often. Last year, WorkSafe BC accepted 170 injury claims. That's an injury claim nearly every other day. One security guard who spoke to CBC News says he's filed 3 WorkSafe claims in the last year and a half. He did not want to be identified because he's worried he could get fired. He says, I've been punched in the head, being spat on, being headbutted, being bitten by violent patients. Here's what we've learned about where the injuries are happening. Accepted injury claims were the highest in Fraser and Providence Health, 50 accepted claims in Fraser Health and 46 in Providence. Security guards in Interior Health were off work due to injury 27 times and 22 times in Vancouver Coastal Health.
That could be a tip of the iceberg.
The province tried to address violence in hospital 2 years ago by creating a new class of security guard. Relational security officers, or RSOs, are unionized health employees. CBC News spoke to 3 relational security officers who say they're not being given the training or tools to keep themselves safe. RSOs working in Fraser Health and Providence Health are not allowed to use handcuffs to restrain a violent individual. Those who spoke to CBC say that puts them at further risk of injury as they try and hold someone until police arrive. The BC Conservative public safety critic thinks guards should have more training and better equipment. Eleanor Sturko connected CBC with the security guards we interviewed.
They are not adequately trained to deal with the level of violence that they're experiencing in the workplace.
She thinks BC should follow Alberta's example and equip guards with a firearm, taser, and handcuffs, similar to transit police. In Alberta Health, protective services officers must complete an intensive training course, which is similar to that provided to correctional officers or sheriffs. The Hospital Employees Union says that goes too far.
Relational security officers are not protecting buildings. They're protecting people. And people come into healthcare with very challenging needs.
Fraser Health says in a statement it's reviewing its handcuff policy and expects security officers to be able to use them in the coming months. Health Minister Josie Osborne was not available for an interview, but the Health Ministry says it is looking into other tools to make hospitals safer, such as using artificial intelligence to detect weapons in emergency rooms. Katie DeRosa, CBC News, Victoria.
For the second time in a month, someone has opened fire at a cafe in Surrey. The CBC's Pinky Wong has more on this latest round of violence to hit that Newton business.
It's the second instance of bullet holes and broken glass to strike Cap's Cafe in less than a month. The coffee shop, which is owned by Indian entertainer Kapil Sharma, was fired upon in the early morning hours. Surrey police were called to this stretch of 120 Street in Newton around 4:40 a.m. Officers say while there were a handful of staff inside the cafe at that time, no one was hurt.
Our examination of the scene and looking for evidence, there was a bottle with a rag in it that has all the hallmarks of a Molotov cocktail or a Molotov cocktail type advice. Now the forensic identification officers will need to examine that.
People nearby are feeling anxious.
We are not feeling safe right now because it's very close to my work. This is not the right way. If you are if you have any issues with someone, this is not the right way, I think, because of this, other people they're having bad impact.
I'm going to any cafe, I'm scared about the shooting. No, now I moved from this area, from going to Abbotsford or Mission Langley.
The cafe opened in early July and was shot at for the first time soon after. Officers believe the two incidents are connected.
We share the concerns of the public. It's, the people who are behind these incidents clearly have absolutely no regard for public safety. We have families, children, people coming to and from work. Scott Road, 120th, is a very busy thoroughfare, 24 hours a day.
Surrey Mayor and SPS officers paid a visit to the cafe after the first incident happened. Police are now figuring out the motive behind the incidents and are not ruling out the possibility these are related to extortion. No suspect has been identified so far.
The clear fact behind this is that there are people who know who is behind this. We need those people to come forward before someone gets injured or killed.
He's asking people with information or dashcam footage to contact them. Pinky Wong, CBC News, Surrey.
The Abbotsford Police Department is introducing a new tool for its officers meant to restrain people with less injury. The APD says it is the first department to deploy this device in Canada. But as Keir Junos explains, it has run into trouble south of the border.
It's the Abbotsford Police. You're under arrest. Show us your hands.
You're gonna have to come and get me if you want me.
Show us your hands.
Rob.
It goes off with a very loud bang, but this is billed as the newest non-lethal option, now officially deployed for Abbotsford police officers. So it's kind of like a big yellow chunky TV remote. This is called the bolo wrap, and an officer would load this cartridge in here, point it at someone's legs or torso, hit a black button, and send a lasso-like device at them in a split second.
If deployed at appropriate distance, it can bind the person's legs or arms, but it also has a noise aspect to it. It's loud on deployment, so the startling effect gives the officers that reactionary time to close the distance and potentially go hands-on.
He says the APD has deployed 6 of these so far. Each of them cost around $1,500 US, and the lasso cassettes cost around $40 or $50.
OC spray, batons. Some officers choose to carry tasers. Some officers choose to carry less lethal beanbag shotguns. This is just another tool that we believe falls in the injury potential lower than the OC spray.
But does it actually work, and will it be worth the money? BoloWrap's website says the device has around an 80% success rate in the field, and that it's supposed to buy officers time and make it safer for them to approach and gain control of a person, not necessarily eliminate a threat. The Seattle Times reported that Seattle's police department discontinued its BoloWrap in 2023 after it saw only 3 deployments in 3 years. We've reached out to Seattle Police to confirm. There are numerous other reports of police departments in the U.S. using the device and having it fail.
Stop.
I'm not coming with you.
Stop.
No.
We're not saying that this tool is designed to replace anything. This is an additional piece of kit that officers can choose to equip and hopefully, potentially, in a team environment, help them solve these situations.
The APD says it led the approval process to start using BoloWrap in BC, and for this department, it's here to stay. Keir Junos, CBC News, Abbotsford.
A week has now passed since the Wesley Ridge fire was first reported on Vancouver Island. And while efforts to contain it continue, some people have been able to return home. Claire Palmer takes a look back on this busy week.
It's been 7 days since the fire started, 7 days since Esther Verheyen left Cameron Lake RV Resort under evacuation order. She's back for the first time.
I don't know how it just passed us by, and miraculously we're good, we're safe, we're open today.
She gets choked up seeing how close the flames got to the resort. It's been in her family for 45 years.
So it's very emotional, and the people that are here have become like family to us as well. They're my guests here, but we've become a very tight community here.
See the houses up there. There's actually about 300 houses.
Verheyen says she's grateful not a single structure was lost thanks to fire crews. Chris Berger is about a half-hour northeast in Meadowwood. His son is out battling the blaze.
Had a front row seat, and I'm seeing the incredible efficiencies, actually, of the BC Wildfire Service. I got to give them props. They're they're really working hard here, and the aviation that's on display and the tactics they're using night and day, it allows me to sleep. It's the first time in my life where helicopter noise is actually helping me to fall asleep at night.
Fire crews say they feel the community support, especially here outside Burritt's shop, where kids have been writing words of encouragement on their lunch bags.
Yeah, we're in it to win it, and our community's got our back with the words of support. It's been absolutely awesome.
Beyond their hard work, Akivyati admits there's a long fight ahead.
It's not over yet. The more containment lines we get in, the more firefighters we have here, the more resources we have, the more access to water. That is all in our favor, but the winds and the weather are not. We cannot control that, so we have to make contingency plans for when that does happen.
While some evacuees are now allowed to return home, BC Wildfire says only a handful have done so, and hundreds of properties remain on alert. Claire Palmer, CBC News, Cameron Lake.
Let's bring in meteorologist Johanna Wagstaff with a first look at the weather and what it's done to firefighting efforts, or for firefighting efforts on that blaze.
Yeah, indeed. It has been a week, as Claire said, and nice that the past couple of days have come with cooler weather, a little bit of rain, a high relative humidity, not a lot of wind, and that's really helped, especially that overnight effort with the infrared cameras. I was just reading the report from last night. A lot of the fire is now that smoldering type rather than fast-moving flames. But it's good to get as ahead of it as we can with high pressure building in the forecast. We've been talking about this the past few days. A few lingering storms late through the evening for the east side of the province, but high pressure is really going to be the story in the days to come, clearing out the province as we head into Friday. And temperatures are turning hot. I'm going to take you through just how warm we're going to get. Summer is very much still here coming up, Dan.
Okay, Jill, thanks very much.
You're welcome.
A very small community just south of Penticton is gearing up for change. It recently voted to become BC's newest municipality. As the CBC's Tiffany Goodwin reports, that could mean a whole new identity.
It's a place where rustic charm meets beachy vibes. This is Okanagan Falls, at least for now. Last March, the community voted 53% in favor of becoming BC's newest municipality. Since then, there have been some speed bumps.
We are being asked by the province to consider a name change. Our feeling is that should have been made known prior to the referendum.
He hopes that any kind of a name change would be up to the new mayor and council to decide. The community is the first in the province to incorporate ever since the Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples Act came into law back in 2019. The province says they're exploring how a name change can better reflect the Indigenous culture of the area.
Name changes are part of Canada's reconciliation plan.
Chief Louis says name changes are long overdue.
It's an important site for our people. We had a reserve there. Nobody can deny that. And name changes are happening in this country. I mean, of course, there's a segment of the population that doesn't like it. There's always going to be a segment that doesn't like change.
The name change for Okanagan Falls is still in the early discussion phase. Mike Bellish and his son Kyle moved to Okanagan Falls 3 years ago to run the community's grocery store. They're excited about the incorporation, but are worried about delays that may come with the name change.
It'll bring in new development, hopefully some new businesses. We'll get an infrastructure set up that we definitely need.
The last community to become incorporated was Sun Peaks back in 2010. As for if they have any advice,
my understanding when the years leading up to incorporation, a lot of work went into public engagement.
As this small community turned municipality braces for even more possible change to come. Tiffany Goodwin, CBC News, Penticton.
With homelessness on the rise across Metro Vancouver, New Westminster is trying to connect people with shelter spaces. That story's next.
I think it's important to give a human face to the stories that we hear every day, the people that they affect. And I think talking to those people is what really gives us the true sense of the impact of the stories that we're hearing.
We're getting a better sense of how much money is in the provincial coffers. The finance minister has released the audited financial statements for the fiscal year that's just wrapped up. We spoke with CBC reporter Mira Baines about that update.
Well, Dan, we should remember that this fiscal update is for the last quarter of 2024. What really people want to see is the first quarter of 2025. That's when Donald Trump was inaugurated as U.S. president and the Canada-U.S. trade war ensued. But these numbers reflected the deficit at the end of the year. And Brenda Bailey, the finance minister, said that the deficit is sitting at $7.3 billion. Now, that's high, but they say that's about $500 million under the finance minister's forecast. that was forecast in the budget. But really, as I mentioned, the numbers that everyone wants to see is the first quarter of 2025, and that will also reflect the elimination of the carbon tax. And Finance Minister Brenda Bailey hinted that the economy is very volatile at this time, and so that will also be reflected.
And Mira, how are these numbers being received by experts and the opposition?
Well, I spoke with Carson Binda. He's the BC director of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, and this is what he had to say.
Just the interest on the debt cost your average family of four about $3,200 last year alone. That's an eye-watering amount of money when British Columbians are laying awake at night, wondering how they're going to afford to put food on the table or keep a roof over their heads.
Now, Bailey had mentioned that there were higher revenues coming from crown corporations like ICBC, but that also offset lower revenues coming from the natural resources sector. But we also heard from a Conservative MLA, Peter Millibar, who did mention that when Premier David Eby became Premier 2 years ago, that BC had a zero operating budget, and now 2 years later, that operating budget is at $24.5 billion.
All right. Mira Baines reporting. Thanks very much. New Westminster is launching programs to help get more people into shelter spaces. This comes as early data from the most recent homeless count shows a 9% increase in the region in the last few years. Michelle Morton reports.
Me personally, I don't feel safe sleeping on the streets.
Holly Forrester says she's been experiencing homelessness for the past few months in New Westminster. She'll stay with friends or find a covered area to sleep because she often can't find a spot in a shelter. Forrester is one of the growing number of people without homes across Metro Vancouver. Early data from the most recent count shows the number of people experiencing homelessness in the region rose 9% between 2023 and 2025. That's a 141% increase from 20 years ago. New Westminster saw one of the smaller increases in the past 2 years compared to places like Delta, White Rock, and Ridge Meadows.
It's something that's facing us every day.
New West recently launched a pilot project where outreach workers connect people with shelters. But the mayor says it's hard to keep up with the demand.
The biggest issue here is just the availability of housing, the availability of shelter, of transitional housing, and of supportive housing.
And some shelters say they are constantly full.
We had a lot more people coming in from the community and from other communities just trying to get the support because they're a little bit of a bastion out there for support.
Holly Forrester feels the strain.
There's no beds. They're all full. There's one meal a day here at New West, and that's at the UGM for lunch. There's hardly anything here for the homeless.
BC's housing minister says the province has funded more shelter spaces, but acknowledges the rise in people without housing.
Continuing to build those short-term spaces, build those long-term spaces, and make investments because we know it's worth it for people and communities.
Boyle says they will continue working with nonprofits and local governments, including New Westminster, to help find people like Holly Forrester a place to stay.
More shelters, more beds, especially for women.
Michelle Morton, CBC News, New Westminster.
Spectacular skies and a look to the east from St. Eugene Resort near Cranbrook. Johanna has your BC-wide weather forecast coming up. What a night and what a tournament for breakout Canadian tennis star Victoria Mboko. The 18-year-old has won the National Bank Open, one of the top tennis tournaments on earth. Her victory is emotional as it is remarkable. Mboko burned through opponent after opponent, including 4 former Grand Slam champions on her way to the top and that trophy, the youngest Canadian ever to win. And she did it in spectacular fashion. Tonight's final, full of drama and some magic, all of it playing out in front of an adoring home crowd. Sarah Levitt has more.
A magnificent ending, a sold-out crowd, and a new Canadian tennis champion.
To do something like this and to tell my younger self that just to keep training, keep believing in yourself, and like, oh my God, I'm getting so emotional right now.
18-year-old Victoria Mboko has done what few thought possible at Montreal's National Bank Open, bringing fans in the stands and across the country along for the ride.
Her first victory.
Mboko,
a new star in the making.
Just
Victoria is victorious.
Kept winning 6 matches just to get to the final, most in dominant fashion. Match point. Along the way, she beat multiple Grand Slam champions, eventually becoming the youngest Canadian woman to ever reach the final.
You know, Montreal tennis fans are generally pretty great. Definitely a very, very special, electric atmosphere.
Victoria Mboko!
The stands absolutely jam-packed for the final. Compare that to her first match. A week and a half ago, did you know who Mboko was?
No, I did not.
Not at all.
Honestly, I didn't know who she was. What do you think of her now?
She's amazing. Absolutely amazing. She has all the full package.
Even in Toronto, where the men's tournament is being held, Mboko was on people's minds.
I got in major trouble yesterday because I was here and I was watching from a box, and I had the game on my phone, and she won the second set, and I went, yeah! Just as Vera was serving.
I wish it was here so we could watch it.
Before this showdown, Mboko had never played former world #1 Naomi Osaka. She considered the Japanese superstar one of her tennis idols. Now it's Osaka watching the Canadian rise.
You know, I was low-key like, that's my little twin, because we both have our blue dresses and like our buns and everything. I'm really honored. I always said that I'd love to play someone that like looked up to me in a way.
For more on the emerging Canadian tennis phenom, if we can call her that, let's bring in Sarah Caddy. She's a Tennis Canada certified high-performance coach, and she worked closely with Victoria Mboko as a young player. Thanks for joining us. You've known Victoria, I think, since she was 8?
Yeah.
What is it like seeing her now, having seen her rise through the ranks? And it's not overnight, clearly.
Yeah, honestly, as watching her this whole year has been so impressive. She's been on like the longest match-winning streaks, and it's just been something. Every match I watch her play at MBO, my heart just like bursting because she's earned it. She's worked so hard, been through so much adversity over the last 3-4 years to kind of actually be able to play and compete and to show up at a level that she's showing up at home is something pretty spectacular.
And she's thrilling people across this country and arguably the world. Watching her play now, is there a spot in her game that you notice has like improved incredibly? Is there something that stands out?
I think she's always been, from a young age, like one thing that stood out is her athletic ability. And kind of one of the things that have always been a bit of a challenge, she grew pretty quickly, growth spurts, struggled with some injuries, knee injuries for the last couple of years. So I think just her movement and her ability to just trust herself when she's on court and the things that she's able to run down and track, like, has been pretty impressive. So it just shows really how much she's worked and the team around her has worked on her physical ability and the strength she has in her body to trust it.
And particularly at this age, you think that those recoveries may happen a little more quickly? I mean, that's also an advantage, do you think?
Our sport is a bit of a disadvantage. It's so much volume. We play on hard court majority of the year, just the pounding on the growth plates of a young adult, teenager. It's so hard, and you're on court 5 hours a day. So, yes, if there wasn't a good recovery around it, and even with that, it's like load management is a huge piece for her, and to see her play 3-set matches and come out and play on that stage and maintain the level over the last week and a bit is pretty spectacular. And particularly under the glare of all this attention, and she's thriving in those difficult moments too. She's, if we can call it this, the latest in a series of stars that have come out of this country. Bianca Andreescu, Leila Fernandez, Eugenie Bichard a few years before that. What is Canadian tennis doing right, and where do you think we can improve when it comes to developing players? You know, we're providing them with the opportunities to get out of Canada a little bit. There's so many of the young players are going on tour to Europe, and just seeing what the level is like outside of here. I think that's so important because we have such a small number of kids who are committed to high performance tennis. So it's easy to get caught in our little bubble and think we're pretty great, but it's a whole world out there that we don't see. So the fact that they're starting, and when I did it with Vicky, she was under 10, and Tennis Canada's continued to do that from a young age for the kids. I think that's a huge opportunities that parents on their own would never even know to do and potentially afford to do. So I think that's huge. Where do you see her going in the future? And I think the possibilities are endless. You know, we started the year I'm like, she's part of my team. You're part of her history, though. She's an amazing kid, so I feel like she's close to me. But, you know, she started the year outside the 300. I don't think her coaching team ever, like, everybody knew she could get to where she's at now, but this quickly, I don't think anyone has expected it to be just such a jump. So this creates huge opportunities. She's now into every Grand Slam right away next year. I'm thinking that wasn't what they had in the cards when she started the year. So that's just huge. The next couple of years, there's only an upside. And as she's on that stage longer and playing more of those top 10, top 20 players on a regular basis, you're only going to see her game elevate every day. And she's just fun to watch. Yeah. Sarah Caddy, we really appreciate your time and expertise. Thanks for joining us. Thank you for having me. A number of Costco digital gift card customers say their cards were drained of all their cash. The retailer is saying little about what happened, so we sent Sophia Harris to check it out.
A number of Costco customers got a nasty surprise recently. They discovered all the money had been drained from their digital Costco gift cards, known as shop cards.
Went for my shopping trip that afternoon on the 23rd, and then came home basically a few hours later and checked my balance and was shocked to find that there were $0 on there. I was very upset.
Shelley Shue says she lost around $200 in June. There are dozens more customer complaints online about drained shop cards. CBC News spoke with 5 affected customers. They said Costco offered few details about what happened, and 2, including Shue, are still fighting for a refund.
I've been really disappointed with how Costco has managed this situation. I've spent several hours over this issue already, and it's just unacceptable.
Costco didn't respond to repeated requests for comment.
The proper thing for Costco to do right now is to admit there's a problem and not let this fester.
In a letter sent to some victims, the retailer stated its ongoing investigation indicates that a limited number of digital shop cards may have been used by unauthorized individuals.
So I'm going to just type in the barcode number.
This tech analyst suggests fraudsters may have figured out the sequencing on Costco barcodes and recreated them.
Print.
Customers only need a copy of the barcode to use shop cards in stores.
It is relatively simple to recreate barcodes. All you need is some software that is free in some cases.
The Retail Council of Canada says each year Canadians lose millions of dollars due to gift card fraud. And sometimes the victims don't get their money back.
It is important that we create better mechanisms in place, more protection, and also remedies to make people whole that have been victimized by these fraudsters.
$200, that's a good chunk of money that I'm not willing to give up on.
As for Shue, she's hopeful her refund is coming soon. Sophia Harris, CBC News, Toronto.
U.S. President Donald Trump's latest tariffs have taken effect across the globe. They target more than 90 countries, with repercussions rippling far beyond. The CBC's Peter Armstrong has more.
It's been nearly 100 years since U.S. tariffs were this high. Imports from dozens of countries were slapped with new tariffs as of midnight last night. The Yale Budget Lab says Americans will pay an average of 18% more for imported products as a result. And there's more to come. We're still waiting to hear how the Trump administration will deal with pharmaceuticals and semiconductors. When that midnight deadline swooshed past, Donald Trump posted to social media saying, quote, "It's midnight, billions of dollars in tariffs are now flowing into the United States of America." His Commerce Secretary was asked just how much money will come into American coffers as a result of these tariffs.
Last month, it averaged just over $30 billion, and as of last night, midnight, the tariffs went up. I think we're going to be heading towards $50 billion a month in tariff revenue.
Now, what Howard Lutnick leaves out there is that it's Americans that are paying those tariffs. Sure, some companies have been able to negotiate better prices and convince foreign suppliers to cut their costs because of these tariffs, but that's not at all universal. And we've seen plenty of evidence of that. GM says its profits in the first 3 months of the year cost that company $1.1 billion. Ford posted its first quarterly loss in years because of the tariffs. Apple says all told it expects tariffs will cost that company somewhere close to $2 billion through the first half of the year. But in a lot of ways, the uncertainty caused by the tariffs and the trade policy in general is an even bigger problem. Job growth has slowed sharply in the face of so much uncertainty. GDP growth shrank in the first quarter and has grown at a mere 1.2% through the first half of 2025. And that was all before the latest tariffs kicked in. So brace for yet more volatility and more uncertainty in the days and weeks ahead. Peter Armstrong, CBC News, Washington.
Top Israeli security officials are charting a new course for Gaza tonight, one that could see a complete military takeover. As Susan Ormiston explains, it's something the Israeli Prime Minister does want to see.
Protesters chant, "You failed," as the Israeli cabinet considers a full-scale occupation of Gaza.
If they retake Gaza, lives of the hostages are further in danger. Society as a whole in Israel is in danger.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, without a viable ceasefire, wants a battle in the heart of Gaza,
a security perimeter,
against the advice of top military officials.
We intend to, in order to assure our security, remove Hamas there, enable the population to be free of Gaza, and to pass it to civilian governance.
Pushing for a 4 to 5 month mission to extend Israeli military control to the whole of Gaza, to rout Hamas out of the areas it still holds, especially in and around Gaza City.
It's not like
Deputy Foreign Minister Shireen Haskel told us today Israel has run out of options.
And when we understand now that there isn't a path, a diplomatic path, there isn't a ceasefire we can reach with Hamas because they don't want one, then we will go into a military campaign and we will finish to clean the areas from Hamas.
The first phase of such a plan would demand the evacuation of Gaza City, nearly 1 million people displaced again. On the street, despair. We're tired. We can't carry tents or our children. Najla Abu Jarad says, "I want to die here in front of my tent, more honorable than having them move us from area to area." The humanitarian crisis is growing. In July, 12,000 children under age 5 suffered acute malnutrition, according to the World Health Organization.
It will get worse. We'll see more people dying, more people starving. The world needs to take very seriously this Israel announcement. The situation is already something that humanity is not supposed to accept.
With many fearing the remaining hostages would be sacrificed.
Susan Ormiston reporting from Jerusalem. Now, the Canadian military is facing a resurgence in reports of hateful and racist conduct within its ranks. New data obtained by CBC News from the Department of National Defence shows after a few years of decline, the number of reported incidents spiked last year. More now from Ashley Burke.
guns, explosives, ammunition. One of the largest troves of weapons ever seized in a terrorism investigation on Canadian soil. 4 people with ties to the military charged last month for an alleged plot to take over Quebec land.
This is extremism, ideologically motivated violent extremism, and in fact it is a threat to national security.
For years, the military's documented hateful conduct in the ranks. This record obtained by CBC News shows examples from the past, including a military member accused of neo-Nazi ideology who likes Hitler and hates all immigrants. Another person was allegedly part of a white supremacist group, and police found a Nazi flag at a residence of another CAF member.
I think that
this professor interviewed former extremist Canadian military members and says what one told him is explosive.
He said he went into the military to learn how to kill brown and black people. And that was, to me, very disturbing.
New data from the Defense Department shows the military reported 330 incidents of hateful conduct over 4 years. The majority of it, claims of uttering threats, intimidation, and hate propaganda. In 2020, the military put in place new policies to crack down. The numbers dropped year after year until 2024, when it spiked again.
There's a link between that rise and the election of Donald Trump.
They're poisoning the blood of our country.
Trump's anti-immigration and anti-DEI rhetoric is a narrative experts believe unleash more extremism in Canada in 2024.
The military continues to be predominantly white and predominantly male. It's especially, I think, vulnerable to those sorts of narratives that are trying to explain or trying to convince them somehow that white men have been left behind.
The Army's commander says hateful conduct must be rooted out.
Something I probably shouldn't say on CBC, but pisses me off, is that the important work that the Canadian Army needs to do to modernize, our eye is being taken off that, our focus is being taken off that, so we can deal with completely unacceptable and inappropriate behavior. That needs to be done.
The data shows the military is dealing with the majority of these cases in-house, and so far only 21 incidents have led to military members being kicked out. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
Tinderbox conditions has led to a precarious situation in Newfoundland. The latest on a wildfire that has cabins full of memories under threat. Wildfires are hitting Newfoundland, forcing people to flee the flames. Bone-dry conditions there have created a tinderbox for those places to explode in. More now from Troy Turner.
Somewhere under the thick smoke of this fire sits dozens of cabins, including one bought by Justin Cox in 2022.
We use the cabin every weekend, and we spend Christmas there. We spent last 3 Christmases there, and we've, Easter and any holidays like that. So it's more of a meet-up spot for friends and family, and we always joke about we could sell the house any day, but we would never sell the cabin.
Earlier today, he heard his beloved cabin is still standing as the sprinkler works to ward off the growing flames.
I guess we're just kind of hoping for the best, hoping that the weather conditions are not going to worsen, to not be in our favor. And the structure is still there, so we're just being optimistic that it's going to stay in our favor. They're going to get it under control.
The road to Martin Lake has been blocked for days, and those in nearby Rushy Pond have now been told to stay away.
The scary part is that not knowing what's going to happen, where we're going to leave, what's the land going to be like when you go back, and is there going to be anything there when you go back? But I'm kind of trying not to focus on it a whole lot.
Forest fire is not a spectator sport. There are resources being brought in that, can actually hamper the firefighting effort. If there's a lot of public in the area, it can prevent a water bomber from actually actioning a fire. Or again, it gets in the way or clogs the roads and the escape routes as well for people trying to flee the area.
The fire is burning about 21 kilometers away from Grand Falls, Windsor.
Emergency planning starts right there. First thing is to think what are going to be the implications for the municipality. Is it an actual threat to us? And what other things can happen, for example, the closure of the Bay to Spear Highway, and how that would impact our residents or our municipality.
Just as cabin owners in the area are in a wait-and-see mode concerning these fires, so too are volunteer fire departments in the area. But Chief Vince McKenzie says in the meantime, people can plan for the unexpected and prepare a list of items and things needed in case they are called on for a quick evacuation. Troy Turner, CBC News, Bay to Spear Highway.
Meteorologist Johanna Wagstaff here with the BC Wide Weather Forecast. But first, what is the latest in Newfoundland?
Unfortunately, Dan, widespread heat warnings issued today for parts of Newfoundland and Labrador, the same places dealing with those active wildfires. Temperatures over the next 5 days for the East Coast, 30 plus in the afternoon and 16 plus through the overnight. Just can't catch a break with the weather. Very reminiscent of our heat domes, but they haven't seen them as much as we have out on the East Coast. We are not quite getting into a heat dome, but high pressure is returning. Take a look at today's highs. We hit 20 at YVR, 22 up towards Squamish, 23 in towards Port Alberni, still a couple degrees below our seasonal today. Tomorrow we'll start to feel things warm up across the province. As we head into the weekend, that's when we'll start to push past our seasonal mark. And by Sunday, you can see 30s up towards Squamish. Parts of Metro Vancouver away from the water will be feeling like the 30s. So heating up and drying out across the province, as we keep saying. Just wanted to show you the satellite over the last few hours. Watch those clouds that we had in through the morning, and even a few lingering showers just dissipate in the past couple of hours. Beautiful evening out there. Should be a nice sunset in a couple hours. We've got this high pressure building in and this exiting low. That really is our story for the next few days. Lingering showers tonight in through the Kootenays, and a little system off towards the northwest will keep things soggier up towards Dease Lake, crossing over towards Fort Nelson. So a few showers in the northern half of the province, but drying out in the south. And this is the high pressure. It's not a true heat dome, meaning it's not extending through all layers of the atmosphere like you're getting on the East Coast. You can see it's not clearing out the clouds entirely, but it certainly is bringing the dry weather back. Seeing that in tomorrow's forecast for many locations across the province. Kamloops 29 tomorrow. They're the lingering showers towards Revelstoke, Golden, and the increasing showers from Dease Lake down through Prince Rupert. Okay, YVR 21 tomorrow. 23 on Saturday, away from the water, start adding a few degrees as we get into Saturday and Sunday. That's when it'll be feeling like the 30s. And Dan, I haven't seen the end of this dry stretch yet, so count on at least a full week.
Okay, we have been warned. Thanks, Joe.
You're welcome.
It's the coastal finals in the search for BC's best symbol, and it's come down to 2 icons, totem poles and Northwest Coast art. More on that matchup next.
Well, it's not a Canadian tennis championship, but we've still got quite the matchup for the third quarterfinal in the search for BC's best symbol.
After tens of thousands of votes, totem poles and Northwest Coast art remain as the two coastal finalists.
This may be the spot in the world where more people have been exposed to Northwest Coast art and totem poles than any place else. Stanley Park. Of course, the irony is thick in that this park was taken from First Nations people more than a century ago. And totem poles are not indigenous to this part of British Columbia, instead originating from the Haida, Nootka, Tlingit, and other indigenous groups further north along the BC and Alaskan coast. And yet, here they are in the quarterfinal of the search for BC's best symbol. Only one moving on. We asked people what they thought it should be, and here's what they said.
I think in my case it's the coastal art. You see it a lot now, which is great. The Haida culture in particular is quite memorable and distinct, I think, and so it just speaks West Coast to me, that's all.
Because to me it's more evocative of BC and its Indigenous culture, and it's colorful, and it's what people think of when they think of British Columbia. Very often people are asking directions as to the totem poles when we meet them down here. They're not totally unique British Columbia, but they are symbolic of BC, and they're tying with our Indigenous culture and background, our history.
I've seen so many totem poles throughout the city, and even up in like Whistler and Squamish. I think they're beautiful. I think they are a great representation of like Canada's past history.
I would go these because I've heard of them more, and I know that there's a few around here. I'm sure there's obviously the coastal art too, but these are just more prominent.
Totem pole, because I'm Indigenous, and there's a lot of Indigenous reservations around here, and I see a lot of totem poles in Stanley Park.
Totem pole. My mom is from Alert Bay, in which they have the tallest totem pole in the world. That's my family are carvers. It reminds me of family.
I would say this one. You see it more. It's on prints, like clothing prints. It's everywhere. Which one do you choose?
Totem pole, actually. Even in where we are right now, Stanley Park, there's totem poles here. So I would say I see totem poles more locally.
I would say totem poles, kind of like a spider sense telling me there's some over there, possibly.
All votes on the internet are superfluous, but is this one more than others? Both are beloved, both are revered. In fact, totem poles are simply a subset in some ways of Northwest Coast art. And yet one of these will go on to the semifinal in the search for BC's best symbol, and all that represents. Justin McElroy, CBC News, Vancouver.
And thanks for being with us tonight on CBC Vancouver News at 6. We'll have your next local news at 11 o'clock right after the National.
Janella Hamilton will be your host here tomorrow night. I'll see you in 2 weeks after a spell on CBC Radio. Good night.
Good night.